Good evening. It's Thursday, 7 o'clock. Get my behind situated. And welcome to Urban Facts. I'm your host, Eamon Hotep Parker the 6th. Today we'll be having a guest, Miss Monica Harmon. She'll be talking today about prenatal care, educating young women and women in general about proper nutrients and just care during the pregnancy stages. So before we get into that, let's just pray. So Father God, I just thank you for today, Father. I ask you just to bring forth wisdom between me and the guest. Help this information to be spoon-fed to the viewers to give them proper etiquette and understanding. In your most holy name I pray. Amen. Now we're going to thank these sponsors here that gave us a little moolah. So we're going to thank Bethana. It's a community center, 25, excuse me, 2501 Reed Street. That's in Philadelphia. We're going to thank Culture Exchange, 1450 Point Breeze Avenue. That is I guess you can call it like a little boutique shop or something like that. DocuCare Copy Service. They do graphic design. They print flyers. Print out. It's a printing service. So, you can go there and get some prints done. You can use the internet and, tell Joe Abdul sent you. Foods from Heaven. That's for my man, Chef Gerard. You can contact him at 215-292-6248, or you can visit him online at www.foodsfromheaven.com. I obviously had no food from heaven. This food is killing me. Another sponsor is Girls Who Brunch, the Girls Who Brunch tour. You can go right to their website, www.girlswhobrunchtour.com, for more information on any events that they may be coming, having. They go across the state, well, not the state, but the nation. So they could be anywhere between Philadelphia to Chicago to New Jersey. Lighthouse International Church. You can look them up on Facebook. That's Pastor Ulysses Pratt, Lighthouse International Church. Wonderful congregation, wonderful pastor, very good environment. Scoop USA Media. They're located at 1354 Girard Avenue, Philadelphia, PA. This is a Black media news company. They give you the information in regards to the inner city. Telly's Glam. This is a online jewelry wholesale retailer. You can catch her on Facebook. Just look up Telly's Glam, and you can catch any information that she may have in regards to, live streams in regards to selling her jewelry. You can also shop there at shop.paparazzipremiere.com/353480. So that's Telly's Glam Jewelry. We got some more news. I'm sorry. So we definitely want to give a shout out to one of the Sixers here, Mr. Joel Embiid. Mr. Embiid is the 2003 Michael Jordan Kia MVP award winner for this season. So congratulations to the Sixers and Joel. Job well done. About time, bro. About time. About time they recognized you. So a little bit about the organization. We are a non-profit organization. We're the host coughs a lot. It's like no. So non-profit organization, and our mission is to educate and cultivate inner city youth through arts and history, worldview, to give these children hope so they can see the opportunities ahead of them so they can, achieve for a brighter future. That's why we have Miss Harmon on to educate young ladies in regards to prenatal care. So before we bring her on, we're going to show you guys a little clip here. Let me see. This is a clip from the Dr. Phil show. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dr. Phil.
Sarah, I'm Dr. Phil, by the way.
I know who you are.
You don't want to shake my hand?
Yeah, so this is a Dr. Phil show.
Let me tell you what.
In regards to prenatal care,
you know what?
And drug use.
We can do this easy or we can do it hard.
I couldn't imagine things getting any worse. 7 months ago, Sarah found out she was pregnant.
I'm excited about being pregnant. I feel like having a baby will definitely help me get my priorities straight.
Sarah is currently still using drugs.
When I was first pregnant and I was doing drugs, I only used heroin and crack for 2 weeks. The only drugs I use at the moment is I just smoke marijuana. I do smoke cigarettes, at least a pack a day.
The first time I saw Sarah high after knowing she was pregnant, my heart just dropped. I'm so angry at her for doing this to her son.
Sarah says she only used hard drugs at the beginning of her pregnancy, but I no longer believe anything that Sarah says. Sarah is a drug addict.
I do not feel like I have a drug problem whatsoever. I wouldn't say my life's out of control. I can smoke crack or do whatever, and then the next day I'll wake up and I won't even want it.
I'm not so much afraid that this baby's going to be born addicted as I am that he's going to be born alive. My biggest fear with Sarah in her pregnancy is that she's done irreversible damage to that little boy, and she'll have to live with the consequences of that.
You have concerns for this unborn child, right?
Of course.
And this child now is, we're guessing, 7 months into the pregnancy.
Yes, sir.
So certainly viable at this point. And your daughter is ingesting all manner of drugs. I mean, some we know about and some we probably don't know about.
Yeah.
And listen, the baby gets blood and oxygen supply from the mother through the placenta, and what she takes in and puts in her blood goes through and goes to the baby. For example, this heroin that she's talking about using, we have found, research indicates that the level of toxicity within the baby can be between 50 and 100% of what's in the mother.
Yeah. God.
So the baby's using drugs.
Yeah.
And your daughter also smokes.
Yeah. Yes.
4,000 chemicals in tobacco, 60 known carcinogens. All of these things going right through to the baby as well.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So some scary stuff. I can't imagine how someone would want that, that type of exposure to their unborn baby, let alone themselves. So we're going to bring on Ms. Harmon, and let's see what she has to say in regards to this situation. Ms. Harmon, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
All right.
Yeah. And please call me Monica.
Oh, okay. Monica.
Yeah.
How was your day there?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Oh, no.
It's another day at the office, but it's all good.
So we showed the Dr. Phil clip. What's your reactions in regards to that?
I'm sad. Sad when I watched it because I felt like this young lady really did not know what she was doing to her unborn child. And I do believe deep down inside, every mother, one thing they want is a happy baby, and the second thing is a healthy baby. And what she is doing is making sure that neither a healthy or a happy baby comes.
Yeah, that's true. So prenatal, tell us what that is and what it involves.
Sure. So prenatal care, it basically means health care that you get before you deliver a baby, right? And that's what we usually think about. So with prenatal care, you look at how many weeks along someone is or how many weeks pregnant they are. You do some blood tests, such as blood sugar, blood pressure to make sure we get baseline. We also do weights just to make sure that you're gaining a healthy weight during a pregnancy. And then also this care is from the time that you know you're pregnant and you actually go for care to either a women's health nurse practitioner, a midwife, or, an obstetrician, and until you deliver a baby. And at that point, you will be postnatal.
Oh, okay. So, what should women be doing as far as lifestyle when it comes to prenatal care?
Yeah. Well, I tell everyone when it comes to prenatal care, even if you're not thinking of becoming pregnant, when most women, when they become pregnant, they don't even know, and they would have already been about 6 to 8 weeks pregnant by the time they say, wait a minute, I didn't get my cycle, or I didn't get my period in a while. Let me take a pregnancy test. Or they might even say, I'm having these symptoms, I'm throwing up a lot. And some people will say, well, wait a minute, you might be pregnant.
Right.
And they take a test.
So, I guess I forgot the young lady's name. The young lady from the Dr. Phil show, what the type of substance that she was using and the time frame that you said someone would find out that they was pregnant. From your experience, how much damage would have already been done to the baby?
Well, what I always tell people is the first layer that is developed of a baby is the nervous system. So that's the brain, the spinal cord. And I saw when I talk with new moms, I always say the biggest part of the baby's body is the head. And that's because that's the first part to grow. So that neural tube that winds up becoming the spinal cord actually develops by the 8th week of pregnancy. And really the nervous system develops within the 3rd to 8th week. So you've already started to damage those cells, and for the brain, which controls all of our functions without us knowing it, as well as that nervous system that makes the connections to our body for all of the functions, breathing, right? Me being able to talk and get words, all of those things start then.
So, what type of, I guess, mental disabilities would that cause for a child, with a mother doing what the young lady was doing from the Dr. Phil episode?
Sure. So she drank alcohol. So we call that fetal alcohol syndrome, which basically would limit how the child will learn. I don't want to use the word mental retardation. That's what we used to use, and that's not a word we use anymore.
Yeah, I think they say mental disability or something like that.
Intellectual disability. Thank you. Right. Low set ears, also other problems with the heart as well.
And that's all from drinking
alcohol. Right. And you see similar effects with other hard drugs, like I think she said heroin, cocaine, crack.
Right. And what could the effects of those do, or it's the same thing as alcohol?
Similar, definitely would limit how someone would learn. When we see a lot of judgment issues, for example, because that's the front brain, you're not being able to make decisions quickly. not being able to learn, make those connections to learn and retain information. Also, behavior. So a lot of what we see with ADHD and some of the other disorders come from having those drugs in the system.
What about defects? Well, not defects, but intellectual disabilities such as autism or epilepsy?
So there's no connection between autism and I even will say with epilepsy. Some of that is how the brain is wired and how those connections are made. So could it have an impact? I'm not sure, but we haven't seen that.
Now, is it well, being as though you haven't seen it, is it still a chance that it could happen from
Oh, it's a
those
chance.
the drugs? Right.
Yes. Yeah, it could be a contributing factor, but
Oh, we just went over that. The dangers of drinking alcohol and using drugs. Well, she also says smoking cigarettes. So I know a lot of people, well, I don't know a lot of people, but I would say that some people may not consider cigarettes as a drug. So how could that, affect the baby during prenatal care?
well, what we know is that the effects of cigarette smoking on anyone's body is that it lowers the amount of oxygen throughout the body. And the way the baby is almost like the baby smokes what you smoke.
Right. No, well, that's
Right.
what Dr. Phil was saying. Whatever the mom is taking in, the baby
Yep.
is taking it.
Absolutely. And so if you're lowering oxygen, then that baby is not able to develop as they should. The other thing is that you're ingesting chemicals, what we know are known carcinogens or cancer-causing chemicals as well when you smoke, or if you're around someone who is smoking. So it's about 4,000 chemicals like formaldehyde, which is embalming fluid.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that's just one example.
And that's not even on, is that information on the packs of the cigarettes, or that's just something you would have to research, I would imagine?
It would be a research, and the studies have shown it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and people don't realize that.
So how should I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say the other thing is that people don't realize is that everything that mom experiences, their babies experience while they're growing inside of mom, right? Right. So if mom's smoking, that baby's smoking. If mom is drinking, the baby's drinking, right? If mom is dealing with a lot of stress, that baby feels that stress too.
Now here's a question: what if the dad is the one that's heavily using drugs? How does that affect the baby? Like, if the dad is smoking or he drinking, heavily, how does that affect the baby?
Now, there have been studies that have shown, like, certainly if mom is around someone who's smoking like dad, then certainly that affects how the baby grows. There also have been some studies that looked at sperm and sperm count, right? And so how fertile you are or infertile, and how that changes the DNA of the babies too.
So as far as with the studies, I guess, what are they precisely looking at to be like, all right, this is definite, versus we don't have enough, I guess, surveys to say that this is definitely a problem?
When I look at surveys and studies, I always look at first who did the study. If I look at the question, the hypothesis, what is it they really wanted to study? And then I also look at who's funding the study as well.
Right.
So for example, I would look at studies from March of Dimes, because they're an organization that is solely committed to making sure we don't have premature births.
Right.
Right. And we also lessen the effects of them.
Another question, what is it that the moms could do? How should their lifestyle be? How should the mother nurture the baby during prenatal care?
Well, I say prenatal care starts before you even get pregnant. So even your overall health, I need young women to understand that, you want to give your babies the best start possible. And even if you're not thinking of becoming pregnant, know that if you have periods and you are ovulating, then you can get pregnant. And even if you're using contraception, that you also, contraception is not 100%. The only thing that's 100% against you not getting pregnant is not having sex at all, abstinence, right? But understand if you're also mixing drugs or using drugs, and I do include alcohol as a drug, right? You have to remember that with contraception or other birth control methods, you have to use them the same time every day, right? If it's a pill, you have to use it the same every time to prevent. And so, you have to be able, to think about, I could get pregnant, right? You may not want to, but you could, right? The other thing is, as I say, you don't know, most women do not know they're pregnant until, about 2 months after they've been pregnant. So the damage has already been done.
What if, let's say, like the young lady, she was doing all the hard drugs and the drinking and everything, and then luck of the draw, she found out immediately when she was pregnant. How would that still have an effect on the baby?
Because she's already had the alcohol. Now, sometimes people say, okay, they had a glass of wine. Oh my goodness, I didn't know. But if you're doing those hard drugs and you're doing it a lot, like I got the sense that she was, to the point where she's passed out or incapacitated, you don't know, your judgment is off. So you don't know what you're doing when you're high.
Now, what would you define as hard drugs? Because some people, they don't consider marijuana as a hard drug. I don't really know, all the drugs, to categorize them. So,
right. So I would definitely say the cocaine, crack, heroin, PCP,
right.
fentanyl. We have a big problem with trank right now in the city. Trank? So trank is when they add in tranquilizers or xylazine, your horse tranquilizers. And the xylazine, so that's why we're seeing a lot more people with the nods, literally standing in the street and they're nodding out. But we're also seeing a lot of injuries where people are losing their flesh.
Losing
their flesh because of drugs.
Oh, the drugs is removing
the drugs. And if they're injecting at that site, and we're seeing that there's a lot of damage to the skin tissues.
Oh, wow.
And then it depends on how you're taking the drug. It depends on how you're taking the drug too. So the other thing is if you're using a needle to inject, and then if you're sharing needles and you're sharing with someone who is HIV positive, has hepatitis, you're putting yourself at risk, but also your baby too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. What are the, the probability of, you sharing the needle with somebody that has a STI and you transferring that to the baby? What's the probability of that?
So thankfully we have some drugs now. So I think about HIV. When HIV and AIDS first started, that was one of the biggest concerns is that because it's blood and body fluid transmitted, that of course, once you have the baby, that the baby could contract it, HIV or AIDS through mom's blood or through mom's breast milk if she's breastfeeding. But now we have the antiretrovirals. So as long as mom is taking those antiretrovirals during the pregnancy, she decreases the chance of her baby.
But it's
still a chance. But some of the studies have shown that most babies don't if mom is taking that drug the way she's supposed to, the way she's prescribed, I should say.
Right. Now with the I don't want to say the increase in teen pregnancies because we had teen pregnancies since the 80s.
And before.
Right, and even before.
Yeah.
What is the likelihood that teens are using drugs during their pregnancy, and what kind of corresponds to their use of drugs?
I think teens have sex for different reasons, right? And some of it is not related to drug, alcohol use. Some of it is, we're truly in love.
Right.
those kind of things. So I think we have to kind of look at why people are making the decisions they're making, which is why I'm big on, understand what you're doing, because there are consequences.
Now, what kind of what could be preventive measures to prevent teens from, engaging in sex early, that could possibly, have them to be a early mom?
I think definitely getting in their head about their future. I think some of the teens, if we know about the teenage brain, you can't think past today. You're not thinking long range. We know that the brain does not fully develop until age 25.
Right.
Right. So the decisions, that you may make, may not be the best ones. You're not always thinking long range. But I think if we can expose teens to just even be able to dream a little bit, because I think a lot of our teens have lost that. And also being able to, talk with others. If I feel like I want to be an artist, what do I need to do to be an artist and be successful at it?
Right.
Get at what it is their passions are.
Now, how would the parents' input, how would that, play a part in that?
Oh, absolutely. Parental input is huge. I think that for one thing, parents, you got to live what you're asking your teen to do. It's not one of those things, do as I say, not as I do, but you really should try to live, the life that you want for your teens in front of them. The other thing is that making sure that you open up the lines of communication between you and your teen, and that the teen understands that you love them. You may not like everything that they do, but that you do love them. And so that they're ready to have that conversation with you, mom, dad, grandma, auntie, I'm thinking of doing this, or I really like this guy. Or if you ask them and they'll tell you the honest answer.
Okay, cool. Now, one other question. Now when you guys engage with teens, young females that are pregnant, what services do you guys offer to them in regards to, them being a teenager?
Well, again, I always try to say, okay, just because you're pregnant and you're having this baby, you still have a life. You still have some dreams. You have goals. You can meet them, right? It may be a little bit harder because you now have another life to think about, right? But you still can do it. The other thing is that I always make sure that our teens get into prenatal care as fast as they can. There are other supportive programs, something called centering pregnancy. A lot of the health centers, city health centers, where you're basically taking classes with people who are at the same gestational age, so the same amount of weeks pregnant that you are. And so that's a support group, if you will, where you get your weights done, your blood pressure. You say, oh, I'm feeling this. Oh, I'm feeling this too, because you're all around the same. There also are a number of programs, home visiting programs in our city. The one is called the Nurse Family Partnership program. It's been here in the city of Philadelphia since 2001. I was one of the first nurses to deliver that program. But so it works, research, evidence-based. But the beauty of that program, it's the nurse, goes and visits the mom at home before she's 28 weeks pregnant and until her child is 2. So it's an opportunity, it's free, but it's an opportunity to really be able to talk about the child that's coming, bond with the child, really get to this point where you're so in tune with the child that as that child is growing, you have a rhythm between each other.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had mothers, first-time mothers as young as 12 and up to 40, 44. So that, but again, you have nurses that are specially trained and they will come out to wherever. And I've had some teen moms where I couldn't go to the home because their parents didn't know they were pregnant, and I would work with them to, okay, we got to talk to your parents, let them know they're going to be grandparents soon.
Now, How does that work out? I mean, being as though the parents don't know, um,
Yeah.
like you said, you had individuals that were pregnant at 12.
Yeah.
Is it any consequences to have it with the parents, or like how does that situation work out?
It can be tricky sometimes, right? Because you look at how old was the father of the child to come. So we are mandated reporters as nurses.
Right.
But I mean, in that situation, it was literally 12-year-old and neighborhood 14-year-old, good kid. Things happen. But we try to work with the families. There are resources out there. I can also say, with some of the families that I worked with, they actually had gotten closer, after the daughter had the baby.
You mean the mom?
Right. Which, I mean, it helped that relationship. There's also programs in the school district of Philadelphia. So there is the ELECT program, which is education leading to something in career training. And that's for the young women who are moms. And then they also have the Mars program, which is for the young men who are the dads in schools too. And that isn't only in the high schools.
So what advice would you give newly pregnant mothers, today?
Newly pregnant moms, I say, would definitely, you are eating for two. So think about what you're putting in your mouth. Definitely stay hydrated. Eat all the food groups. Also be active. It's not the time to sit around when you're pregnant. It's actually time for you to walk. If you like to swim, dance, all of the things that help you as you're preparing to bring a new life into the world. Definitely get prenatal care. Definitely know your numbers. So know what your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and making sure that they don't go too high, those numbers, while you're pregnant. I would also say be very in tune with your body as well. So, know your baby's patterns. I always tell people that, the first music that babies hear is mom's heartbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and so think about that. So when you rub your belly or the baby's moving, just know that you are really bonding with your baby already, right? You're
Right.
showing them love, and that's important. I would also say, as a teen, we're like, oh, they're not ready to be pregnant. They're not ready to raise children. But think about, there are resources out there. Utilize them. You can finish school. You can still follow your dreams, as well, even with a baby. Like you were saying earlier, we've had teen pregnancy. It's nothing new.
Right. Well, from my research, in this course I am with psychology, some of the teen pregnancies come from like trauma within the home. I mean, that's not always
Sure.
the case. What I
Right.
mean? You just
Right.
can't just have two kids that happen around
Right.
and they did something. But
Right.
it sometimes it is harder for that child to even dream about anything if
Yeah.
they don't have proper parental support.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking what services do you guys offer, the
Yeah.
consequences towards the parents. I don't know, like I'm not trying to say that the parents should be locked up or whatever the case should be, but it should be
Yeah.
something like, hey, like what was you doing? What type of guidance was you instilling that you allowed this to happen? So, and then sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a repeat, it's just a pattern, because the parent could have been a
Right.
teen when they had that baby,
That's right.
so
We see that a lot. And I think that was what a lot of what I did when I was an NFP nurse too. And I think that's why when I said, earlier that the mothers and the mother of the baby, they actually became closer, because I think the grandma, who was a mom, she actually saw herself and her daughter. And I think the
right,
daughter began to understand the mom a bit more too.
because they had that like story, right?
They had that like story, right? And I think we have to have the conversations with our teens that I don't know we adults always have with them. Like we always say, oh, you shouldn't be having sex, or when I was coming up, keep your panties up, your dress down.
Yeah, it's not a easy conversation. It really ain't. Because I mean, because if you didn't have like the proper parenting, because that's what's the important thing of having proper parenting. Because the advice that they give you, you can give to your kids. But if they never gave you that advice, then now it's like, well, what I say.
Right.
And,
do as I say, not as I do.
right. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
For I mean, you may have you had it for the first time with your child or your children, but it's always like
Yeah.
you just hope the conversation don't get real deep and they listen to what you're saying. I think the relationship between the parents and the child, if they do have a great relationship, then the children will value what the parents are saying.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but especially like if the parents don't really have anything going on in life, they not really, how can I say, practicing what they preaching, then some of those kids, they not slow, they'll see the hypocrisy
Right.
and say, well, hey, you're not even doing what you asking me to do. You know what I mean? So
sure. And I think the youth today will call you out on it too.
right. They'll call you out on anything.
They will. And I'm like, I said, and you know what? You say, you know what? You're right. However, are you able to take care of yourself? You start putting in, and they'll think about that.
Right.
So you always have to put some realism out there too.
Yeah, definitely. But it was definitely a pleasure having you on. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Hopefully we can have you back on, or, trying to help us in some type of way. I know you're quite busy with teaching and everything, but like I said, thank you again and enjoy your evening.
All right. You as well. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Right. You too.
So that was Monica Harmon with the prenatal care lesson. I'm not a nurse. I don't even pretend to be. Remember that commercial? Like, I'm not a member of the hair club. I just pretend to be. But I brought her on because she is a nurse, and I didn't even realize like the type of credentials that she has. She has a master's in nursing, which is pretty extraordinary. And the master's is just that. Like I'm a master in this field. That's why it's called a master's. So with her coming on, she has the experience and the wherewithal to know, like, what she's talking about. Now if we was talking about like some psychology stuff, I could, I give you some information in regards to that, or how to fix a camera, but we ain't talking about that. We talking about saving your child's life. Now, the one thing that I didn't ask Monica is what's the percentage of these kids dying the younger that they are during pregnancy. Now, I'm sure it has to be some type of number, because some of these kids are so young that it could probably damage their body. They may not die, but it may be some damage. You know what I mean? But like I said, I didn't ask her, so I'm not going to assume that. You can do the research. But as a parent, you got to know what your kids is doing. You should know where your kids is at all times. And it's very irresponsible if you don't. And I know I get on here and I talk about the parents and y'all kids, because y'all kids is out of control. Like a month ago, it was like 100 kids down Center City. Like what they doing down there? What they had, like a march outside rally or something like that? It wasn't no rally. They down there causing trouble, jumping on police cars and attacking police. Now one of them would have got shot. Then now you talking about black lives. Look, black lives don't matter if they the lives is causing the trouble. So let's get it together. You know what I mean? You don't want your kids to get harmed, so you have to put them in a position where they won't do harm. And you gotta analyze who your kids is hanging out with. You know, you just can't because your son 10 and Michelle's son 10. Like, you better check out Michelle and her son to make sure that they the right the right people for your kids. Especially with these little girls, like, you don't know if who daughter is fast. They might, talk your daughter into doing something. Or we gonna go over to little Timmy house, and then all of a sudden Timmy got lucky with your daughter. Like, come on, get it together. Know where your kids is going at. And I ain't trying to say that's going to happen, but then again, I ain't trying to say it ain't going to happen. But here's the thing: you can make sure that it don't happen. All you gotta do is, like she said, you ask questions like, "Hey, where you going at?" Don't let your kid walk out the door like they pay bills, and even if they're going back in the house, like, where you going at? That's what my grandmother used to say. I could have just walked in the house and walked back out, and she was like, "Where you going at?" That's her job. Stop being scared of your kids. So we got this little moment here. Let me see here. So it's time for a moment in Black history. Let me trying to get this thing here right. There it is there. So here it is there. Moment in Black history with Miss Ambrielle Parker. So let's bring on Ambrielle. Hey Ambrielle, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good. You're looking wonderful. You're looking wonderful as usual.
Thank you.
So who you talking about today?
Today I'm talking about Miss Ida B. Wells.
All right. Well, let me get out your way so you can go ahead and do what you do.
Okay. All right. So today, on May 4th, 1884, a journalist and activist, Ida B. Wells, was asked by a train conductor to move from her seat in a lady's car into a smoking car on a bus to Nashville, Tennessee, where she would be taking classes at Fisk University. After Wells refused to move, she was physically forced by a group of men into the car to move from her seat. The incident led to a lawsuit against the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad Company. Wells won the case and was awarded $500, but her victory lasted for a short time. As the company appealed the verdict and the case went to the Tennessee Supreme Court, the court reversed the decision and ruled that Wells' attempt to cause the railroad difficulty by not following the conductor's orders. Wells' case received national attention and it was the first of its kind. She used the moment as an opportunity to begin writing the hit about the incident for Living Way, a black church newspaper. The article popularly landed a column called Ida. This began Wells' writing career. In the months to come, she was publishing articles in black newspapers across the country. By 1889, she became part owner and editor of Memphis publication called Free Speech and Headlight.
So that happened actually today, like May 4th.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you hear Ida B. Wells prior to, this Black History moment?
Yes, I didn't know who she was, but I didn't know about this. I knew that she was an activist and a journalist. I didn't know that she was forced to give up her seat and she went to court. I didn't know about that. That was new information.
Well, name another incident you recall as somebody being asked to remove from public transportation, a seat on public transportation.
Claudette Cloven, which was later moved to Rosa Parks. Both of them was asked to move up their seat on a bus so that a white man could sit down.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time as well. You did wonderful as usual. And I'll see you next week. Well, I'll probably see you sooner than that, but everybody else will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. So that was our Black History moment with Miss Ambrielle Parker. We started doing that with her because last month it was Women's History Month, and I suggested that she do something to kind of like help the foundation, because this podcast is a part of the foundation that we started, the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, and she was very nervous about about doing it, and from doing this Black History moment, it made her more confident in regards to being live in front of a couple of people or whatever like that. Well, I'm sure it's more after we turn off or whatever like that there. So what else we got going on here? So we definitely want to talk about the youth conference. So that's that there. So that's the youth conference. It's going to be July 15th, 2023. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Location is Bethana, 2501 Reed Street, Philadelphia, PA 19145. So the speakers will be Jada Smith. She's the CEO of Swag. We also have Mr. AJ Evans. He's a gospel artist. He also was nominated for a Stella Award, so you can check him out on Facebook. Sajaya Blackwell, she's a PA state rep for the West Philadelphia area. Wonderful woman. Dr. Alfonso Evans, he's the principal of Allen M. Steen School. Wonderful principal, great educator. We try to bring these people on to give you insight. Like we brought on Monica. I don't know nothing about being a principal. I sure don't know nothing about being a state rep or, a gospel artist, but these guys do. And they're going to encourage youth to keep hope. Like, I don't know who you say that, keep hope alive. Oh, Jesse Jackson. So these kids can see the opportunities they have in front of them. Because if you don't have hope, that's how Obama won his election. He gave these people hope. And they was like, hey, we'll go with that. We'll vote for you. You know what I mean? And you got to give your kids hope, so we don't have to worry about if your kids are smoking crack while they pregnant, or if they drinking, or even if they pregnant. You ain't supposed to be 16 pregnant. Like, you supposed to, be able to finish school and go to college and, get a master's degree and something like that. Like, you shouldn't be worried about, like, who going to watch your baby while you go to 12th grade English. You know what I mean? But, that's why I said, your parents, you got to be more involved in what's happening. Check their phones. Go on their phones. They ain't their phones. That's yours. Check and see what they doing. Go on their social media pages or whatever like that. Last week we had Mr. Grant on here, and, he became one of his friends. He set up a fake account so he can be his friend, his son's friend on social media. And, unbeknownst to his son, he telling his dad, like, hey, we about to do some crazy stuff that he was doing. And then his dad showed up and he was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, what you doing here? You know what I mean? So you got to be involved with what the kids are doing. And sometimes it is a hard task sometimes, because, the kids will sometimes throw you for a loop. So we about to do our birthday shout out here. So it's this young lady's birthday, and that is Zanaya Beautiful Bailey. Zanaya turned 10 May 3rd, and we here at the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, we want to just give you a wonderful, happy birthday. I don't even know how long we've been doing this for. Maybe a year, probably. But I remember when we first started doing it, and a young lady asked, like, well, what you giving the kids for doing this? I said, I ain't giving them nothing. I'm giving them the opportunity to have an organization announce their birthday. Because unbeknownst to some of you guys, we may be the only person saying happy birthday to some of these kids we put on here. And we may not be. But the thing about it is that it's somebody that they don't know. Like, I know if I was 10 and my mom rushed me in here and be like, hey, this man said happy birthday, and I don't know who this is, I'm like, oh my God, like, for real, like, what I do for that to happen? Like, small things like that make kids feel appreciated. You ain't got to always pay children to do something that's going to make them feel appreciated. And matter of fact, you probably shouldn't, because you don't want the children to think that they got to get paid for everything that they do or you do for them. You know what I mean? So that's my little insight on that. So happy birthday again to Zanaya. Let's bring her back up again. So happy birthday again to Zanaya. Well, your birthday was yesterday, so I hope you had a wonderful birthday. Now, if you guys want to give to the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, that's our Cash App right there. All the funds that we get go to the programs that we have. So we have the Talented 10th. That program deals with youth, from 11 to 25, and we break up the programming according to the age or whatever like that. So we have Lily's Flowers. That program deals with preventive measures to avoid domestic abuse. And we also help, women coming out of that. We give a book that we have, How to Love Yourself First, to women that may be entering that or, might come from like a broken home. Because as a woman, well, as anybody, you want to know how to love yourself first so that you're not so easily manipulated into, entering something that can possibly harm you. Oh, and then we have Lily's Flowers. No, I said that. Mamie's House. So this is a program that helps with the community, with feeding the homeless. We're going to do some parenting classes. We try to cover all the basics that can help the kids, because if you got your mom or your dad being beat up at home, it ain't just women that's getting, domestic violence. Then that will deter the child and their development. Like, they may not be able to concentrate in school. That might cause stress on them. They might start using substance abuse, because of what's happening at home. You know what I mean? So you definitely want to look at that. We got another. Oh, we also do mentoring. So that's through the Talented 10th. We got professional individuals that help talk with teens, youth, early adults in regards to life development. And, the relationship with your mentor can last until the day you die. Like, my mentor is Dr. Proctor, and I call him every day if I got anything to ask him. And if you know him, you can ask him. Because that's what he's there for. Like, if I need help, I got to call him to ask. And the flip side of that is that, like, whatever advice that he's giving me, I have to take it, if it's beneficial to me. You know what I mean? So that's how that relationship works. So that's our Cash App. If you guys want to give some money, if you guys got any questions or concerns, that's our email. So it's elzfnd@outlook.com. Please feel free to shoot us an email if you got any questions or concerns about any of the programs that I did mention. Let me see. We got another. We had another message. Let me make sure I covered everything for today. We did the birthday shout outs. So we want to thank Monica again. We want to thank Ambrielle. She did a wonderful job. They both did wonderful jobs with that information. And as usual, I want to thank you guys, the viewers, for coming out and, just taking your time to watch this program. It means a lot to me. Like, I'm not saying Good Morning America. It ain't millions of people watching yet. But the 4 or 5 people that do watch and the others that watch, after the show already aired, you guys really mean a lot to me. because that shows that you believe in what I'm saying. You know what I mean? That we really do want to help these kids, and we really do. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have brought Monica on here if let me explain that so there's no misconception. I didn't bring her on here so we campaigning that your teens get pregnant. That's not the thing. You as a parent, you have to make sure that your child isn't pregnant. Now, in the event that happens, she's giving you information in regards to what your child could do. Now, it's not just children because, there's just female information, period. You know what I mean? So I don't want you guys to think, well, oh, he brought her on, so it's cool to get pregnant as a teen. No, it's not. Because as a teenager, you want to do all kinds of stuff. You want to go to your little friends' parties and, go out and play and go to the movies. You ain't gotta be home wondering like who gonna watch Junior. I want to see the new X-Men movie. Like, no, you shouldn't be doing it. And then like she said, it is harder if you have a baby when you are in school. But your dream won't be deferred. It's just gonna be a little bit harder, to make that dream come to pass. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's not gonna happen. But here's what I am saying. It's easier if you ain't got no baby. So focus on school. Get through high school, get through college, get a career, and you can have as many babies as you want to. But don't do it now when you're a teenager. You ain't, because sometimes, the stress from that. Like, I was just stressed. I wasn't even a mom. Trying to figure out like what I'm supposed to do as a dad, and I know I had some issues coming up as a kid. I had issues when she was pregnant. So, trying to raise these kids or whatever like that. And, the kids is challenging. They challenging from birth to teens to whatever. And if you don't have the experience as an adult, I ain't say grown up, as an adult, when, you've matured physically and matured cognitively, you making proper decisions and you making wise choices and things like that's what the adults do. Then it's even it can be tricky with adults. So imagine if you just an adolescent or a child or a minor, and you got this other child to take care of. That's why I said parents, you gotta be on top of your kids. See where they going at. They go out the door. Hey, where you going at? If they running late from school, call them like, hey, where you at? You know what I mean? Like, you the authority figure. And I know you might want to be like, well, I don't want to be too. They'll tell you if you too hard on them, and then they'll appreciate you in the end for the sternness or the authority that you displayed on them. You know what I mean? So we got another podcast. It's called I can't even remember. We was interviewing a psychologist, and we was talking about the 4 stages. Well, the 4 different types of parenting. So go back on our Facebook page and see if you can find that. Well, YouTube page. I'm sorry, and see if you can find that. So that's it for me for tonight. I want to thank you guys again. Thank the guests. And you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless. And good night.